Every morning, long before you consciously lift the first thought of the day, your mind is already negotiating with itself. It debates whether you should open your eyes or rest for a few more seconds, whether the soft warmth of the bed deserves another moment of loyalty, or whether the world beyond the pillow has earned your presence. Even these tiny, silent negotiations, invisible to anyone except your own brain, begin to draw from the same internal reservoir you will rely on for every choice ahead. You don't feel the cost at first. The currency your brain spends is subtle, a kind of mental fluid you will only notice missing when it's too late, when your patience thins, when your clarity dulls, when your ability to choose collapses into whatever option demands the least effort. This erosion is known as decision fatigue, and it shadows your entire day like a quiet accountant, tracking everything you decide, even the choices you make without noticing. As the morning unfolds, you might reach for your phone and face a flood of micro-decisions. Reply or ignore, read or scroll past, engage or postpone. Your brain evaluates each possibility with astonishing speed. It weighs social expectations, emotional consequences, and personal priorities, all within fractions of seconds. But the price remains the same. The reservoir lowers. You might not imagine that choosing a breakfast cereal contributes to mental exhaustion, yet every option on the shelf speaks a question your mind must answer. Some people believe they are simply tired or lazy or inconsistent, when in reality they are simply running low on the cognitive budget required to function with precision. Decision fatigue does not care about intelligence, discipline, or personality. It affects everyone, from exhausted parents choosing dinner to world leaders making historical choices under the weight of the clock. Throughout the day, you might wonder why certain decisions feel heavier than they should. Why responding to a simple message feels like lifting a stone. Why choosing what task to start next becomes strangely paralyzing. Why the smallest frustrations ignite reactions you didn't intend. The mind, once bright and sharp, takes on a fog-like softness as decision fatigue grows. Thoughts stretch, focus scatters, and the world itself can begin to feel noisier. This happens because the brain relies on the same cognitive machinery for both important and trivial choices. Every yes, every no, every maybe, every "let me think" chips away at your mental energy. Unlike physical exhaustion, you cannot measure this depletion in muscle soreness or heavy breathing. It shows itself instead in hesitation, irritability, procrastination, impulsivity, and the magnetic pull of the easiest path available. Researchers have long observed this phenomenon in fields where choices pile up with extraordinary speed. Judges, for example, have been found more likely to deny parole later in the day after reviewing dozens of cases compared to early morning evaluations. The decline isn't rooted in fairness or morality, it's cognitive depletion. This same mechanism affects people from all walks of life. By afternoon, many individuals find themselves grazing snacks they didn't plan to eat, spending money they didn't intend to spend, or abandoning tasks they swore they would complete. The brain, starved of decision-making fuel, starts to default to behaviors that promise immediate relief rather than long-term benefit. Decision fatigue also shapes your emotions. When your mental resources drop, your patience weakens. The things you normally tolerate with grace begin to bother you. You snap more easily, misunderstand more often, and treat minor inconveniences as if they were personal attacks. The brain, struggling to differentiate between what matters and what doesn't, becomes reactive rather than reflective. Emotional decisions come faster because thoughtful decisions become harder. It's not a lack of self-control, but a lack of cognitive capacity. In these moments, your mind seeks shortcuts. It uses heuristics, biases, and past habits to steer your behavior automatically. This is why, after a long day, you might take risks you normally avoid or retreat into comfort, even when you know you should do something productive. Your surroundings also influence how quickly decision fatigue accumulates. Environments filled with noise, clutter, notifications, and constant interruptions force the brain into a never-ending state of micro-evaluation. Even deciding whether to ignore a notification burns cognitive energy. A messy room, for example, presents a stream of tiny choices. Should you pick up the shirt, move the cup, organize the papers? Avoiding the mess is itself a decision that drains you, because your brain acknowledges the chaos even when you pretend not to. In contrast, simplified environments reduce cognitive load. Many people don't realize that minimalism isn't just an aesthetic preference. It's a protective mechanism for the brain. As the day progresses, the weight of accumulated choices makes long-term goals feel more distant. You may have the intention to exercise, learn something, or finish a project. Yet the path toward those goals begins to look uphill. Your brain prefers the flat ground of easy decisions. This is why many people find themselves trapped in loops of low-effort behaviors after work, scrolling endlessly, watching videos without intention, or letting hours pass without a sense of direction. It isn't lack of ambition, it's a neurological system asking for rest. The brain simply cannot maintain high-quality decision-making for 12 or 14 hours straight. No machine can run indefinitely without cooling down, and the brain is the most sensitive machine you own. The digital age intensifies decision fatigue. Humans were never designed to process thousands of micro-choices from glowing rectangles all day long. Every post you scroll past is a choice. Every message you evaluate, every article you decide whether to open, every ad you ignore, every video thumbnail you consider. Even when you think you're relaxing, the mind is quietly exhausting itself by navigating a maze of micro-decisions that didn't exist for most of human history. And because these micro-decisions don't feel like traditional decisions, the exhaustion they cause feels mysterious, as if it came from nowhere. Decision fatigue also distorts self-perception. When the mind is cognitively drained, people often misinterpret their mental exhaustion as personal weakness. They say they lack discipline. They say they're unmotivated. They call themselves inconsistent. But none of these labels reflect what's actually happening. The brain is unable to regulate choices effectively because its decision-making circuits are fatigued, not because the person lacks character. Understanding this distinction changes everything. It removes the self-blame. It replaces shame with awareness. It turns confusion into clarity. And it opens the door to restoring control over your mental energy. Near the end of the day, when your cognitive budget is nearly empty, your behavior is shaped by impulse more than intention. You might decide to order food instead of cooking, click buy now instead of comparing prices, stay awake scrolling instead of going to bed, or avoid decisions altogether by doing nothing. These choices aren't laziness. They are the brain choosing the path requiring the least cognitive effort. When your mental reservoir is drained, your brain prioritizes immediate comfort over everything else, even if the long-term consequences aren't ideal. This is why many people make their worst decisions at night and their best decisions in the morning. Understanding decision fatigue doesn't prevent it, but awareness gives you the power to work with your brain instead of against it. The mind follows patterns like tides. It rises with clarity in the morning and gradually ebbs as the day unfolds. When you understand that your cognitive energy is finite, you begin to shape your environment, your habits, and your structure in ways that protect your mental reservoir. You learn when to choose, you learn when to pause, you learn when to rest. And most importantly, you learn that your struggles do not define you. They simply reveal that your mind, like every mind, needs care, recovery, and space. The mind carries its history into every choice you make. It remembers the decisions that drained you yesterday. It anticipates the decisions waiting for you tomorrow, and it tries to conserve energy by simplifying today. This is why habits play such a crucial role in protecting your mental clarity. Habits remove the need for choice. They function like preset paths in the brain, directing your actions automatically so you don't need to think your way through them. When brushing your teeth, locking your door, or placing your keys in the same spot every evening, you are not deciding, you are following a neurological groove carved by repetition. These grooves spare your cognitive reservoir, allowing you to reserve mental energy for decisions that truly matter. Without habits, life becomes heavier. Every action becomes a fresh negotiation. Every step demands conscious evaluation. Imagine if you had to think through every detail of tying your shoes each morning, or debate the sequence of steps required to make your bed. The exhaustion would rise quickly. Habits convert complexity into simplicity and chaos into order. They turn overwhelming days into manageable ones. But habits require intention to form, because in the beginning you must decide repeatedly to behave in a way your brain isn't used to yet. Once formed, though, they become quiet guardians of your mental energy. Another force that shapes decision fatigue is the illusion of infinite choice. Modern life offers endless possibilities, each wrapped in a subtle pressure that whispers, "Choose correctly." Whether selecting what to eat, what to watch, what to wear, or what task to begin, the abundance of options becomes a trap disguised as freedom. When everything is available, nothing feels simple. The weight of making the right choice presses down on you, especially when every decision carries the hidden fear of missing out on something better. This phenomenon drains your cognitive resources faster than you expect. The more options you face, the more exhaustion you accumulate, and the more the quality of your decisions declines. This is why some highly productive individuals reduce the number of choices they make each day. They wear similar clothing, follow morning routines that never change, and automate parts of their lives that don't require creativity or deep thought. What they're really doing is protecting their mind from unnecessary cognitive load. They understand that mental clarity is not a luxury, but a resource, and they guard it the way an athlete guards their physical strength before a big performance. The social world contributes its own layer of cognitive strain. Interacting with others requires constant micro-decisions. Should you respond now or later? Should you agree or disagree? Should you speak or stay silent? Should you reveal your true opinion or keep it hidden to maintain peace? Social situations are filled with moments where your brain evaluates risk, tone, intention, and emotional context. Even supportive interactions consume energy because the brain must manage attention, interpret signals, and maintain awareness of the dynamics at play. After a long day of social navigation, the desire to retreat, to turn off your phone, or to withdraw into silence is simply the mind asking for protection from further decision-making. Your physical state also influences decision fatigue. When you are dehydrated, sleep-deprived, or lacking proper nutrition, your brain struggles to regulate cognitive effort. It becomes more expensive to think clearly, like walking uphill through soft sand. Under these conditions, even simple choices feel difficult. This is why tired individuals often make impulsive or inconsistent decisions. The brain is doing its best to function within limited biological resources, and its priority becomes survival, not strategy. Rest becomes more valuable than productivity. Simplicity becomes more appealing than willpower. The body and mind are deeply intertwined, and when one is depleted, the other inevitably follows. Stress accelerates the depletion. When you are anxious or emotionally overwhelmed, your brain devotes energy to regulating your internal state. This leaves fewer cognitive resources available for clear decision-making. You might notice this during chaotic or uncertain times. Choices that would normally feel easy suddenly become tangled. Decisions that once took seconds now take minutes. Your mind loops through possibilities without settling on one. People often misinterpret this as indecision or weakness. In truth, it's a natural consequence of the brain reallocating its limited power to maintain emotional stability. At the heart of decision fatigue lies a simple truth. The brain was not built to carry the weight of endless choices. Humans evolved in environments with fewer options, slower rhythms, and longer periods of mental rest. Modern life requires a level of cognitive endurance that our neurological systems struggle to maintain. But even within the demands of this world, there are ways to protect yourself. When you understand the rhythms of your mind, you can begin to work with them rather than fight against them. You might choose to plan your most important decisions early in the day when your mental reservoir is fullest. You might simplify your routines to reduce unnecessary choices. You might limit the number of apps that demand your attention or create clear boundaries around your digital life. You might organize your environment so your brain faces fewer micro-decisions. You might set defaults for tasks you repeat often, allowing your actions to flow without constant deliberation. These small adjustments gradually rebuild your cognitive strength and create space for clarity to return. With intentional structure, decision fatigue becomes manageable. You begin to feel more grounded, more consistent, more capable of steering your life rather than drifting from one moment of exhaustion to another. The fog lifts, the world feels less overwhelming, and your sense of self slowly reawakens. Every time you remove a decision that doesn't matter, you protect your ability to choose the ones that do. The truth is that life does not require constant decision-making to move forward. Much of the chaos you experience comes from the pressure to control every detail, to optimize every moment, to chase perfection in each choice. But your mind does not need perfection. It needs clarity, simplicity, and rhythm. When you honor its limits, you rediscover the calm that exhaustion once buried. The quality of your decisions improves. Your emotional resilience strengthens. You regain the ability to think, to plan, to create, and to choose with intention. And perhaps the most important lesson hidden inside decision fatigue is this: you were never meant to carry every choice alone. You were never meant to navigate life without rest. You were never meant to interpret exhaustion as failure. Your mind, powerful as it is, needs care. It needs structure. It needs space. When you give it these things, it gives you clarity in return. The ability to choose wisely is not a talent. It is a resource. And like all resources, it must be protected. The next time you feel overwhelmed by decisions, remember that what you're experiencing is not weakness. It is the natural signal of a mind asking for balance. A mind that has worked hard. A mind that deserves restoration. When you listen to it, you begin to navigate life with greater intention and less exhaustion. You reclaim the steering wheel from impulse and deliver it back into the hands of clarity. This is how you begin to live, not by exhaustion, but by design. If you guard your mental energy with the same respect you give your time, your life begins to feel lighter. The choices that once felt heavy become manageable. The paths that once felt blurry begin to sharpen, and the noise that once overwhelmed you begins to fade into the background. This is not because life becomes easier, but because your mind becomes clearer. And clarity, more than anything else, is what transforms the quality of your decisions and the direction of your life. In the end, decision fatigue is not the enemy. It is a messenger. It reminds you that your mind is not a limitless machine. It invites you to create routines, simplify your world, and build a structure that supports your best thinking. When you do that, you take back control of your day, your choices, and your mental peace. You begin to choose from clarity rather than exhaustion, and in that clarity, your life begins to change. When the day ends, and your mind finally quiets, give yourself permission to rest without guilt. Let your thoughts soften. Let the reservoir refill. Let tomorrow bring the clarity that today couldn't. Your brain will thank you, your patience will thank you, and every decision you make afterward will grow sharper, lighter, and truer. And as you regain your mental strength, remember this: the quality of your life is shaped by the quality of your decisions, and the quality of your decisions is shaped by the energy of your mind. Protect that energy, and everything begins to shift. Now breathe, reset, and prepare to choose with clarity again. If you want more insights like this, make sure to subscribe to MindDecode HQ, turn on notifications, and join me in the next chapter of understanding the mind you live with every day.